Welcome to the objective review of the CW DC Elseworlds 3-night crossover event. In an objective review, I like to break a movie or short TV series down into 6 categories and assign weights to them depending on the genre to give the most honest, unbiased, objective review as possible. So let's get started with story. This may have a few spoilers in there, but the story follows Oliver Queen wakes up and he is Barry Allen. He has super speed. He wakes up with Iris in his house and things don't seem to be right. And then on the flip side of that, Barry Allen wakes up as Oliver Queen. He's fighting Diggle and he is strong. He actually has a six-pack now, I guess, which is probably CGI. I don't know how Grant Gustin works out. But they're trying to get to the bottom of what happened. Essentially, they kind of figure out what happened. Some guy is rewriting history and they want to stop him. Although there's no real sense of urgency because we don't really know what's going to happen, what's the ramifications of this not being fixed. They just want to fix it themselves. And in this first episode, in order to prove to their friends and family that they are who they say they are, they go to Kara Danvers, Supergirl's Earth, because she can tell which one apart. So she'll provide some proof that they had a body swap. So I really enjoyed this story out of all of them because it's just them trying to convince their friends of who they are. And there's that great, Freaky Friday effect of like things aren't right. So that was all great. And then there's a great fight with the Mazo, which subjectively speaking, as a DC fan, is amazing to see. And then Superman comes in. So all that was good. Great story. In the second episode, they go to Gotham City because they think that's where this guy is at. Deegan, I think is his name, Dr. Deegan. And they meet up with Batwoman. Don't really know why. Don't know why the plot asks for that at all. It just seems real convenient that they just fall through their laps. Like it almost seemed like a huge sidestep, which I think made this story seem suffered a little bit for that. And then really this second part of the story I feel like has no real ramifications on what comes next. Third part of the story, Oliver and Barry Allen are actually bad guys in this one. Now this guy Deacon has a Superman body. I got a huge injustice feel on this. I wish they kind of would have delved into it, but that's okay that they didn't. Actually, they laid a couple of foundations for doing this in the future. But what the story did remind me of was a great story in Justice League cartoon called Once in a Future Thing, where this guy invents time machine. He's traveling throughout time. He's just changing the time stream. Like the Green Lantern goes from being John Stewart Green Lantern to being Hal Jordan Green Lantern. Wonder Woman disappears. It's a very terrific story. They go to the past, go to the future. But that story I think did it a lot better than this story. One of my big issues with the story is that they really just focus on the three of Supergirl, Green Arrow, and the Flash, and that kind of made it feel small. Even though they wanted the story to feel big, just focus on them three made it feel really small and a lot more insignificant. And then there's all the terrible stuff that comes with CW shows, like the drama between their significant others. I think that was handled horribly. But I think on the bright side, Kara Danvers' part with her sister, I think was handled great. But there's just not much really, I think, holding this story together. There's a lot of, I think, some lazy writing in there. Like the whole story just feels insignificant and small and incohesive. So I have to give a story a 7 out of 10. And that's on to emotion. And I feel like the story wasn't all that emotional. The one part that I really loved, as I mentioned before, was Kara Danvers talking to her sister Alex. And on this universe, Kara is evil, at least perceived as being evil. Alex works for this government agency. And Kara explains to her, like, I know in my universe we're sisters and you wouldn't be afraid to be who you are. And I know you want a wife and kids. And I really enjoyed that part of the story. It had a great emotion to it. On the flip side of that, you have the Barry and Iris, their emotional thing. And that was done fine. It was fine. Barry's always says that Iris is a lightning rod. And then you have that stupid Olicity drama stuff that made me thankful that I'm not caught up on Arrow, because that gets old quick and it was dragging down that episode a lot. But for emotion, I give it a 7 out of 10. The Kara Danvers stuff was amazing. Everything else wasn't as great. That's to action. The first episode, absolutely loved it, the action. I mean, the fight with the Mazo, you had Oliver as the Flash running up, Amazo chasing him, Superman fighting him. It was a great fight. Loved it. After that, I think the action gets pretty bad. In the second episode, Batwoman has a great little quick action scene where she just pretty much jumps on top of a car and she takes out a couple people. That was done well, but everything else was pretty bad. Oliver and Barry have a fight because they get knocked out with some Scarecrow toxin, and that fight's just so confusing to me because they see the arch villain of the other ones, but it would have made way more sense if they saw their arch villain, like, because Oliver now has super speed, so it makes sense that he would fight Barry Allen, but seeing Malcolm Merlyn, because he has a bow, and it makes sense that Barry Allen will see the Reverse Flash because he would be fighting someone with super speed. But they did the backwards, and that didn't make any sense to me. Then I felt like the action in the third episode was just, man, it was just very like cheesy in a way, and it didn't look high quality. The thing is, they can do really high quality. Last year's crossover and the wedding scene was amazing. Loved it. But I think the action in the last two episodes particularly weren't that great. Also in the second episode, there's like a Arkham breakout scene where Diggle is fighting, and this shaky cam is just shaking all over the place. It looks terrible. But for action, give it a 7.5 out of 10. This is on the comedy, and the comedy and CW shows seem to be pretty good. I mean, everyone did fairly well. Cisco, of course, did good. Barry Allen did good. Kara was good. I think most of that came from that whole Freaky Friday aspect of it. It was just like, all right, they're swapping bodies. How are they going to deal with it? So for comedy, I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Next is on acting, and everyone does kind of the CW serviceable part. I think with a few exceptions. Barry was good. He's always pretty good. Kara Danvers, I really loved her scene with her sister. I think that was done so beautifully well. But on the flip side of that, I did not like Stephen Amell that much in this episode, especially when he had to play those lighter tones. I don't think he does that well. I just don't believe it, and just comes off really as over the top and cheesy. I do think Grant Gustin does a good job of kind of going into that darker tone, except for when he says, "You have failed this city." Like, I don't buy that at all. But for acting, I give it a 7 out of 10. Next on to directing. Like I mentioned before, some of the action scenes directed in this episode was just shaky cam. That Diggle scene, I think, is atrocious. It's just so terrible. As for the cinematography, I mean, CW shows really don't have great cinematography at all. When it comes to the pacing, I think these episodes were heavily front-loaded. As for the music is always pretty good. They use that Somebody Save Me song from Smallville, and I would say subjectively, because I'm a huge Smallville fan, literal goosebumps. It just took me back to high school, middle school, just waiting for Wednesdays for when Smallville would come on. That gave me all the feels in the world. Like I said, I think there was a lot of shortcomings with the directing. So directing gets a 6.5 out of 10. So that brings our weighted average score of 7.1 out of 10. I think it could have been so much better. The previous crossovers, I think, have all been good, and they've all been topping themselves one after another. Last year's I like the best, but they've all been good since the Flash and Green Arrow crossover. But I will say this, subjectively, I am really excited for Crisis on Infinite Earths next year. Hope they really build that up. Like, I need to see a Dean Cain, Tom Welling, Superman with this Superman. I don't know, if you throw an animated one in there, go ahead and do that. That I look forward to a lot. That should be good. Anyway, that's it. I have other videos. Check them out. Subscribe, whatever. And sincerely, thank you for watching. I'm out.